At the start of the film, we are shown a time in the future when the Earth is being destroyed due to natural disasters and rising sea levels, and the Earth was no longer habitable for humans, so people were migrating to a far planet through a huge passenger spaceship. The name of the spaceship was Aniara. The ship was like a traveling hotel with every luxury imaginable, like restaurants, malls, pools and nightclubs, that passengers could enjoy during their 3-week journey. In a way, it was the whole of man-made planet inside a spaceship. In Aniara's latest flight we see the movie's lead character working as a mime for the ship's AI software Mima. Mima is a virtual reality system through which humans can enjoy their memories and natural environment from before the Earth's destruction. Mime uses the system itself to enjoy Earth's waterfall before opening Mima Hall to passengers. She also eats fruits there. After that she goes to her room, which happens to be a bunker room, and she had to share it with the spaceship's astronomer, who happy talks with Mime and then both fall asleep. The next day, Mime invites all the passengers to try Mima, from which only 5 were interested. After giving a short introduction of this system, she takes 5 people into the Mima Hall and instructs them on how to experience Earth's lush and diverse environment. Then suddenly something goes wrong with the flight as the ship avoids hitting space debris. In no time the pilots somehow stabilize the ship, but soon discover that they have distracts from their way. Pilot Isagel then tries to get the ship back on its original track, but the system warns them that a meltdown has started due to engine power failure. So to prevent the ship from being completely destroyed, they decide to drain all of its nuclear fuel, and then Isagel tells them that we are heading towards the cluster of stars. After some time, then Captain Chefone announces to the passengers that the ship has deviated from its way due to reactive damage, and they don't have the energy to get it back on track, because we have drained all the fuel due to the fire at the power station. And then he assures them that the ship will return to its track when we encounter a celestial body, meaning a planet or a sun. Because of its gravitational pull, the ship will return to its original track. But they didn't know when it would happen, so they have to wait at least 2 years. All the passengers get very worried after hearing this. A lady Libido says that she had promised her son to visit him on Far Planet on his birthday, so she was very emotional and out of control after hearing this news. Mime takes her to Mima Hall together with another passenger Capiba, due to which Libido calmed down in no time. Meanwhile, Chefone holds a meeting with all the employees and tells them to boost up the algae production to increase the food supply. That night, the astronomer and Mime talk to each other about this news, but neither cares much because no one is waiting for them on Mars, as she was alone in the whole world. Just like that, 3 weeks pass and everything was going normal. People kept themselves busy in different activities to pass their time. Mime job also became quite busy because now more people started taking interest in Mima, so she tells her in charge that she needs an assistant to handle so many people. Then one night she asks the astronomer that how long it will take for the ship to find the celestial body, and she tells that we will not survive until the next celestial body is seen, and the pilot knows this too. Hearing this, Mime gets depressed and goes outside to drink water, so she gets a panic attack after looking into space from the window, so she quickly goes to Mima Hall and walks through a virtual forest on Earth using the system. The next day, a man similarly suffers a panic attack, realizing that the spaceship will never return to its original path. So Mime advises him to go to the hall and says that life on that planet is not that good. We have to try to survive on the ship, and then Mime, along with another officer, takes him to the hall so that the rest of the passengers don't get panicked because of him. Mime then talks directly to Chefone saying that people will go out of control knowing the truth, which will further increase the demand for Mime. She also asks him for assistance, to which he promises to give her 8 assistants, and says that when people get used to eating algae, we will tell them the real truth. In the same way, 3 years pass. Mime has now started spending time in nightclub, where she becomes close to a man named Daisy and they become intimate. To fulfill the demand for food, the authorities pay people a lot of money to work in the algae plant. At the same time, they needed more workers at the water purification plants because people were getting sick of the water. The demand for Mima was also increasing because people had not seen Earth for 3 years. Mime allows Isagel to use Mima after operating hours so she doesn't have to wait in line. Because she was gay and developing feelings for her, Mime now also tells the astronomer about her feeling. But in astronomer's opinion, these love feeling are all meaningless things. One morning while using Mima, Mime notices that birds suddenly start falling from the sky, indicating that there was a problem with the system. But she can't find the problem in that day. Mima makes strange noises and gives passengers terrible nightmares, so Mime quickly shuts down the session and sends everyone out of the hall. The rest of the people waiting outside are disappointed, including the libido, so Captain scolds Mime for why she had shut down the system, to which she explains that Mima needs a rest because it is exhausted after seeing everyone's memories. Mime asks the captain for permission to shut down the system for a week, but the captain refuses. When Mima is restarted, the system says again that it is bothered by people's painful memory and will not show images again, and then suddenly it signals to blow up itself, so Mime tries to stop people from entering the hall. but no one listens to her and then Mima destroys itself. The next day people remember the software. Labidal tells all the passengers that Mimarobe is behind Mima's destruction because she used it too much. Chefone decides to punish Mimarobe, to which Isagel goes to talk to the captain in her favor that it is not Mimarobe's fault. But when the captain doesn't listen to Isagel and taunts her, she punches him, so she is also locked up with Mimarobe for her misbehavior. Then we see a year later when things have gotten worse. Some people had formed cults while others had given up all hope and committed suicide. As the authorities were running short of staff, they decided to employ criminals instead of locking them up. Among them were Isagel and Mimarobe. Isagel is tasked with taking care of the algae and Mimarobe is tasked with teaching the children. Both of them had now become lovers and were given the same room to sleep. Then a lady Kepiba invites them to their cult, which was built by Labidal in memory of Mima. She says that we also know that Mima has killed itself and it was not Mimarobe's fault. So they both go Mima Hall to attend the cult ceremony where everyone gets intimate with each other after praying for Mima, from which Isagel gets pregnant. After a few months pass, she begins to feel hopeless enough that her child will have to stay on this ship, and he will never see the light of the sun. Mimarobe promises her that she will try her best to fix everything, and later, she asks Chiffon for permission to build a beam screen that will display photos of nature outside the windows, but Chiffon said that it is more important to leave all these inventions and teach to future generations so that the ship can continue. Soon, Isagel's son is born, whom Mimarobe takes care of together with her. One day they discover that the telescopes have spotted a ship coming towards them. That rescue ship wasn't that big, so they think it must have been carrying fuel for them, after which Chiffon announces to the passengers that the fuel vessel will reach us in almost a year, which will allow us to return home soon. People celebrate this news happily. Then after a year, Aniara team starts the training to hook the fuel vessel and bring it to their ship. They were all very hopeful that everything would be fine now. As the vessel approaches, the artificial gravity of the ship is increased to slow down the vessel's speed, and then finally this vessel is hooked and brought to the ship. A whole team of scientists come to inspect the vessel, which has become a mystery to them, because they could not open it. One engineer says that maybe our inspection methods are outdated, while another officer said that maybe there is no fuel in it. We should not have given people hope in advance, but the captain said that it has a great effect on people's minds, so we have to keep it a secret for now that the fuel is not found. Scientists fear that if there is radioactive material inside the vessel, they also assure the captain that we will soon find a solution to use this probe, but even after a long time, they do not understand anything about the probe. Meanwhile, the patience of the passengers was running out. They all started getting out of control, so officers used their stun guns to keep them under control. Captain Chiffon then goes to the investigation team and tells astronomer that she discovered vessel and she will be rewarded, so the captain announced to give her reward so that she wouldn't tell the truth to others, and at the same time he tells the other scientists that we have to keep the passengers hopeful so none of you will tell people about the fuel. But the astronomer doesn't want to believe him and says on her way that this ship is a coffin for them. This enrages the captain and he takes an officer's gun and shoots the astronomer dead. At her funeral, Mimarobe recites a poem written by her. In this poem it was told that life on Earth was like a dream and how humans destroyed its environment. After that, Mimarobe and her friends start taking drugs to release the tension. Those people were hanging out in the club when suddenly the flight started to experience turbulence, so the officers immediately ask everyone to go into the cabins and fasten their seat belts, and when Mimarobe goes to her room, Isagel was behaving quite strangely. Mimarobe thinks that she's doing this because of drugs. Meanwhile, the captain realizes that many crew members and passengers have died due to the flight turbulence, so he gets quite nervous. Later on, Mimarobe started working on a beam screen project with her students. She also happily tells Isagel that their work will be done soon, but Isagel doesn't seem too excited. Soon they display an image of the waterfall outside the spaceship, which the passengers are delighted to see. But when Mimarobe goes to her cabin, she discovers that Isagel killed her child and took her own life. She starts crying out of pain. 5 more years later, all the remaining survivors celebrate the 10th anniversary of Aniara's journey, in which Chiffon honorably awards Mimarobe a medal for the beam screen, because its projected images helped passengers see Earth and gave them hope to live. Mimarobe notices that Chiffon had a cloth tied around his wrist. That means he also had tried to take his own life, and by now their water supply was also polluted because no one was taking care of water filtration system. Then we are shown the 24th year of this space journey. Still no celestial body or any planet was near them, where the ship was moving around in space, and the rest of the remaining survivors are sitting in the Mima Hall begging God to show them the light. After 5 million years, Aniara spaceship is completely empty and full of dust. Their spaceship enters into the orbit of a planet, but no one was alive to see this. And with that, the movie ends here. If you like this video, please subscribe this channel.